but it looks like that's working now. Various brands here. But as a general comment, and anything you see in SOS land, whether that's our materials or our websites or even down to like the iPhone application, all of it can be rebranded and reskinned for your brand and for your company. Offering and a brand and a customer experience that really consistent with what your business already does today. A question here from a link to the video, usually within, I think, 24 hours of the webinar. So, yeah, you'll be able to access this content anytime you like. All right, so just a brief overview of the backup landscape today. This will resonate with this. So in the home user space, they generally are not good backup. So consumers have not adopted good backup strategies at all. So you've got a very wide open market in the consumer space, not a lot of competition. Where there is technology in place being used for backup, it's usually a hodgepodge of technology, some software or flash memory key backup, which of course are not secure, not automated, not off-site. So generally in the consumer world, there is a very large opportunity for selling online backup because there's just no technology in place for backup. Moving across to small business, and our definition of small business is at sort of 5 to 500 range. Here things are different. You do have backups in place. It's rare that there's a small business that has no sort of backup policy. It might not be a good backup policy, it might be expensive, it might not be secure, but there's generally some sort of backup in place. Typically where backup is in place, it's the disk or tape and it's on-site, so it's hardware-based backup, what we call or refer to as centrally architected hardware-based backup. And what we mean is just it's usually connected to the server only, it's usually on-site and only work on-site, and it's driven by a tape array or a disk array. Generally some software involved, usually a product like, say, Backup Exec that is optimized for backing up to tape, and then, of course, a lot of labor. So this labor component, which is actually one of the most overlooked cost, we estimate the labor cost is often as much as 100% of the hard costs. So when you're selling this, with online backup, you're selling online backup as a better backup at a better price. The technology is vastly superior to disk. I'm going to see that. We're going to look at that analysis on the next slide, which a much higher level of backup. You've got similar technologies that you're competing against, but usually much longer procurement, some technology for backup, lumpier. Again, the solutions are usually architected centrally and around hardware-based solutions. So all the limitations that comes with that, which we're going to talk about soon, apply. And the labor component is even greater. So often this labor component is the single biggest cost component traditional backup technologies. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about setting up the solution, configuring the solution, verifying that it's running the backups every day, verifying the backups, taking the tapes off site, doing a recovery. Doing a recovery can take 3 or 4 days when you're recovering from multiple tapes, as I'm sure many people in the audience have experienced. It's a very arduous and time-consuming process. So translate directly into the economics of tape backup and hardware-based backup sales. For example, tape backup sales have really started collapsing. They've shrunk from 2.3 billion to 1.5 billion over the last 2 years. If that trend continues, we're going to see tape receding into being a legacy technology. So where's that large part? It's moving to the cloud. So a recent survey by CTO Edge magazine found that more than 70% of CTOs surveyed intend to move all or part of their backup load to the cloud in the next 5 years. And that study actually gave rise to a great quote from one of our partners. If we don't sell our customers a cloud-based backup solution. Someone else will. So one of today's presentation, that your customers are going to use online backup. The only question is whether or not they buy it from you. And so SOS focuses on getting you into the business and allowing you to capture that opportunity rather than have your customers go to Mozy or go to Carbonite. So here's just, earlier on I said online backup's fundamental proposition is it's a better backup at a better price. We'll talk a little bit about why it's a better backup in a second, but just from a cost standpoint, this is a TCO comparison that you might find useful. And this is based on a real customer versus an online backup solution. The online backup solution was $1,000 a year, so over 5 years, $5,000 cost. Backup is going to cost $6,100 to install, and over a 5-year period, $9,100 to run, just on the software and hardware pieces, not counting the labor component. So when you're costing the labor component, it's potentially as much as double that amount in total. Whereas with online backup, it's just $1,000 a year. So given that it's such a lower price for the customer, you might be thinking as a reseller that that's then going to eat into your margin. But actually the opposite is true. With hardware-based backup, the competition's been so fierce in the market that typical margin to resellers has dropped to single percentage points. So on this particular tape solution, the reseller in question was going to make just shy of $500 in commission as a one-time commission on the capital sale. Whereas with the online backup service, the reseller in question is making $500 a year every year for years. So total revenue for you in this scenario, the partner, is $2,500 on over a 5-year period, compared to just shy of $500 once off from selling the hardware-based solution. So not only is it a better backup at a better price for your customers, but it's also at a much richer margin for you, the partner. And so why do I keep saying it's a better backup? Well, let's look at some of the factors. And these are the ways to do. With hardware backup, deployment is very difficult. So it's often a significant project. It's several days worth of work to get the backup solution deployed and set up and running smoothly. With online backup, it's simple software. You just deploy it out over the network. You can deploy it to 500 seats over the network, and it's now installed and running and protecting those nodes. Coverage, and this is a major element. With hardware-based backup, it's only the devices that are actually usually connected network that are being protected. So that usually means workstations and servers. Laptops that are moving in and out of the network, or say branch offices that are not at headquarters, are nearly never protected. So laptops are actually one of the great unspoken for voids in the backup market. The corporate laptop fleets are not well protected. IBM has hundreds of thousands of laptops around the world, and senior executives from IBM on the records saying they have no comprehensive backup strategy for those mobile. And it's because traditions to, say, a network, particularly, to back up to a central location, and then from there to physical media. Think about that, and then think about online backup. With online backup, every single device is connected to the backup cloud. So that could be a laptop. It could also be your BlackBerry or your iPhone. So here in front of me, I have an iPhone, an iPad, and a BlackBerry, and they're all backing up to the SOS cloud. They're not connected to any network. They're just always under the backup cloud. And that now in particular. Media with hardware-based backup, media and media management is always a major problem. Some of the embarrassing data loss incidents over the last few years have actually been because of misplaced tapes. With online backup, there isn't any media, so that complexity is removed. With hardware-based backups, we're slow and cumbersome. A recovery, a full environment recovery from tape media could take days, could take 3 or 4 or 5 days to do a full environment recovery. With online backup, that data is instantly, immediately available from the cloud. So your recovery window shrinks to an hour because you can get access to your mission-critical business data, pull down the rest data on your own schedule. Also with recovery, you can set it up so each of the individual users users in a company can access their data directly. That's for the customer. Security, tape-based backups, just simply security backup software solutions have encryption built into them from the ground up. Securing those tapes is then an additional cost associated with running these solutions. Whereas again, with online backup, security is baked in. Across the industry now, there's pretty much an industry adoption of military-grade encryption. We use AES, for example, but generally encryption across the whole online backup industry is now at an excellent standard and is equivalent to the types of security mechanisms used by online banking systems.